Good morning and welcome back to the Seasons of Self-Actualization mini podcast where we dive into each season as they come, giving it the attention it deserves to help us understand and embrace all the parts of ourselves so we can live our lives to the capacity that we know we can. For the season of spring, we've been looking at how we can create space within our environments to feel potentially reset, renewed, to become more supported, to grow, and to bloom. I'd like to start off by thanking you for being present here with me today. I'd like to invite you to grab some water or a warm drink and stay hydrated throughout this episode. And as you know, it is a short one, so let's dive right in. I always like to start these episodes with tuning into yourself a little bit because I think that's so important, and oftentimes we don't really prioritize just taking a moment and tuning into ourselves, or we feel like we don't ever find the time. So no matter where you are or what you're doing, you don't have to make it a big grand gesture, but try to create some kind of awareness where you connect to yourself and ask yourself just kind of internally, how are you doing? How are you feeling today? If you can, take a moment to roll your shoulders back or massage the back of your neck or roll your head back a little bit and just keep trying to connect with your body. If you're in a place where you can do that, we are going to just move right into our breathing technique. So the breathing technique that I always like to do is called the 4-7-8. So let's do this together. We're gonna exhale all of our air out through our mouths first. Breathe in for 4 counts. Hold for 7 counts. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you're going to slowly exhale through your mouth for 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Great. If you can keep doing this, keep doing it. And otherwise, try to keep taking deep breaths while you're taking this time to connect with yourself. And I love starting out our podcast episodes that way before we dive into the part where you can engage a little bit with your mind. So this week's affirmation is, each day I create space to hear my own voice. Each day I create space to hear my own voice. Each day, I create space to hear my own voice. So in today's episode, I would like to introduce a new aspect of environment that I find just as, and if not more important than your physical environment. This is your internal environment. And when I talk about internal environment today, I am using it in a very general way to refer to our thoughts, to our beliefs, and our self-talk. It's just one aspect of your internal environment, but a very, very impactful and important one, because these are all things that may influence how we feel and how we act in our daily lives. Maybe we are even afraid of our thoughts, and that is okay. But something to remember is that a lot of these thoughts, especially the ones that we're afraid of, aren't us. It's not us, and it's not our voice. Oftentimes, it's a condition, it's a pattern, and it's a natural tendency that we have as humans to have intrusive thoughts that don't make us feel good. It's also natural as humans to try to not listen to them, to try to ignore it. As we do in our physical spaces, we try to ignore the things that don't make us feel good. Yet the only way to ever feel actually safe or potentially change something is to first see it, or in this case, to listen to it. And try to realize that it's not you, but that it can affect you. And hopefully you can create the space to tend to it. And this is the practice that I want to help you do throughout these next few episodes on internal environment, because this can be a very difficult practice, especially when we can even be critical of having these critical thoughts. But remember that this is a practice. I want you to keep in mind that in observing our thoughts that are either supportive or unsupportive, it might sound like I mean good or bad, but I actually mean some are just more unpleasant than others. All thoughts are okay. We do not have necessary control over which thoughts pop up into our head. It is the awareness that we're trying to create to be able to call these unpleasant thoughts out for what they are, because a lot of times it's not actually us, right? So if we're able to call them out for what they are, it kind of helps us separate the intensity, because even though these are unpleasant thoughts, they are probably things that we've heard or things that we've internalized, and they've somehow became a pattern or a belief along the way. But acknowledging that for yourself, it's kind of relieving, potentially. So, for example, if a thought pops up into my head that makes me feel very upset, I try to call it out for what it is. Like, that was an unpleasant thought. That is what it is. Also, that's probably not the full truth. So even though I still feel upset by this thought, I didn't push it away, I called it out. I also try to think about where it might have come from when I have the time or space, especially if it's a recurring thought, so that I can try to assign it somewhere, since it doesn't belong to me. So maybe you have had a really critical parent in your childhood, and maybe you can start to connect some of the things that are not so nice that are popping up in your head, that it's someone else's voice, a parent, a bully, a coworker. Sometimes I even say, that's this person's voice, that's not my voice, and I separate it. As with our physical environment, the more aware that we can become of the things that are contributing or not to a supportive environment, the more opportunity we are creating for this potential change, or at least the acknowledgement, right? The acknowledgement, which can lead us slowly to a more safe and nurturing space for ourselves. The really interesting thing about both your internal and your external environment is that they feed each other. So the spaces around you might ignite a feeling. This feeling, conscious or not, eventually translates into thought, and thoughts, conscious or not, translate back into action, most likely contributing once again to your external environment. And this cycle, it continues, and somewhere along the way we move further and further and further away from the truest version of ourselves. And this is why our physical environment starts to slowly turn into an environment which no longer reflects our dreams and our deepest desires, but then we also become unhappy. I believe that the glimpses of the dreams that you still get now and then, the desire to be who you want to be, the potential that you see that you have, that is actually who you are. I believe that is who you are, not the thought patterns, not the negative beliefs, not the conditionings we might have adopted as our own. Oftentimes, though, we don't realize that we don't have space for what we think anymore. It's hard to tap into it. It can get so cluttered and chaotic, and it takes a lot of effort and searching sometimes to be able to find or hear ourselves. But this is okay. This is okay. It's natural and it's human. If you feel lost, if you feel sad, if you feel not enough, it's okay. It's okay to have had these intense thoughts affect you so much. That makes sense. It is just so important, though, to acknowledge the part of ourselves that's being affected by this. We can also try to practice compassion during these moments. Even though it's hard, and even though we might believe these thoughts, we can try to say something back. Do you realize that there's a part of yourself that suffers from hearing these critical, harsh thoughts? I have compassion for that person. We can also practice thinking things like, this comes from somewhere and it's not my voice, or it's not the full truth and I don't deserve that. I don't deserve to hear this. Let's practice acknowledging ourselves and the things we go through within our minds. Let's practice having compassion. Let's practice calling these thoughts out. So let's try to notice this week, what thoughts are we thinking often? And how does that make us feel? Try to comfort that part of yourself that feels that way. I'd like to thank you so much for your time. And also, I would like to acknowledge you for the investment that you've made in yourself today. Keep going, even if that means sitting still with yourself and with your thoughts, or rather the thoughts that are in your mind that don't belong to you. Remember to leave a comment down below about how you're doing, one thing you've learned, or something you'd like to share, because I'd truly love to know. Remember to be gentle with yourself and to make sure to tune in again to this podcast when you're up on Monday to set yourself up for another great week. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.